crashed, crumbled, and was abandoned, more or less. Bata, the iconic brand, shoe manufacturing brand, especially for school children, also folded up because, of course, of a deficit in supply of hides and skin. So when you look at this, all put together, turned us into a net importer of most of this product. And I'm trying to contextualize it in the usage, in the usage of our resources to import raw materials, that we could or that we were producing before, we abandoned for whatever reason. And of course, it had serious implication on our resources, especially our foreign reserves. Beside our foreign reserves, by importing all these other raw materials, we started exporting jobs into those other jurisdictions. So we're losing jobs, more or less. We're creating jobs abroad, but losing jobs in Nigeria because, of course, we had reduced manufacturing capacity. Now, the beauty of backward integration is the effective use, of our local domestic resources. And that has I always like to say I want to put it in the multiplier universe. And the multiplier universe will tell you that when you have a frame, of backward integration, you are creating a value chain, or you would have created a strong value chain of productivity. First, in terms of the raw materials, because you'll be empowering the person at the bottom of the pyramid that is responsible for producing your raw materials. Is it in terms of your agricultural products, in terms of your chemical products and all that? Then, of course, there's also a secondary aspect to that, the processing of this product, and then the linkage, between the industry that eventually use this product and the producers of the raw materials. Now, you would have enhanced the capacity of the producer, and by the industry connecting, with the suppliers, you are also creating jobs opportunities. You are not only creating jobs opportunities, you are also creating a flourishing environment for production. And these are reflected in our PMIs, their Purchasing Managers Index. The CBN, measures production activities and other related activities in the manufacturing and non-manufacturing sector of the economy. Over the last 28 months, we had recorded increased, tempo in the manufacturing and non-manufacturing sector of our economy. So much that now we are celebrating that our manufacturing sector especially is returning 58.9 index points. That will reflect in expanding employment opportunities, in expanding production capacity, in expanding turnover in inventory and all that. So it's when you look at this, a 360-degree excitement. You had the chairman, the president of the Aba shoe manufacturers saying that they preferred hides made in Kano than imported ones. Now, what that also tells you is that locally produced products, are better put together, are more qualitative and reliable.
Yes, than imported ones. Let me pause you here and take you on another question. Now, how would government incentivize the process of the backward integration? In other words, how can the operators of the current backward integration that is gradually being internalized, how can they be encouraged? Because of course you started by telling us about the deficits we had in the supply of raw materials, and these are raw materials that are abundant in Nigeria, perhaps because it was they were ignored,
abandoned more or less,
and it went bad. So how can the operators be encouraged? We have seen several manufacturing companies that we've shown, a short while ago.
It's simple. I think it's an ongoing process already. The restriction on foreign exchange by a number of selected items, by the CBN is a major incentive, because when you do that, when you pick out items that can be produced in Nigeria, that we have capacity to produce, when you pick those ones out and put some bit of restriction to it, what you end up doing is to create an uncompetitive disadvantage for imported products of that nature. So, and by doing that, you enhance the capacity of the local producer, because one, you have reduced competition for him, and secondly, you are also encouraging the local producer to look inward, to look out for resources here, to enhance its capacity to compete with its imported counterparts, as it were. But I think more than that, the Anchor Borrowers Program, the real sector funds, the Nigerian Development Bank, and in Bank of Industries and all that, all those initiatives are targeted at incentivizing that sector. And it's important because the manufacturing sector is a major sector in Nigeria, and we would enjoy the best of two worlds. We have our leg strongly in agriculture. In fact, the best of three worlds. We have our leg strongly in agriculture. We have our leg strongly in solid mineral. We have our leg strongly in manufacturing. So once we are able to bring this as a composite in our economy, it will drive the momentum of wealth creation.
All right, thank you. Let's look at the textile industry, for instance, which of course we know nosedived, some years ago. And today we are seeing a re-emergence, courtesy of the Nigerian Air Force, which has now taken upon itself to produce the uniforms and the other materials, used by the men and women in the Nigerian Air Force. But that is just the Air Force. Now, talking about the larger picture of the textile industry we used to know, in Nigeria. And of course, the major raw material is cotton, which of course is presently in short supply, right? And what can be done in that respect? Because textile is one area that is quite huge, and the international community, some especially Asian countries, are really keen into the deficits that we have in Nigeria to bring in all manner of textiles in this country. So what can be done to revive this industry, especially from the point of view of the raw materials required?
Yeah, I've been tracking the industry, and I've been tracking the efforts by the CBN and federal governments. I think it goes beyond the Nigerian Air Force. I think sometimes late last year, the CBN governor met, the president met with all commanding officers of the Nigerian armed forces, plus the police, as a soft point, the easy point of getting into the industry, and gave a direct orders that all uniforms, all needed uniforms, must be sourced from the Nigerian textile industry. So I think the NAF are taken off. I'm very sure the military and others will take off. But the most important thing is that the CBN, sometimes in August 2018, also commissioned about 100,000 cotton farmers in Katsina. So you see a deliberate process, of triggering or restarting that process. And again, the textile materials are also under the restriction, to foreign exchange in the country. So, of course, what that also means is that if you want to import textile materials, you have to go to the black market, and at the black market, it's an expensive thing for you. So, on a general note, I also like to point this out. This is also preparing the Nigerian economy to be strongly, actively part of the African free trade, African continental free trade area. Don't forget that there's what we call the rule of origin. If you want to take your product outside the country to other countries in the zone, you must have at least 60% content that is organic to you in the production of that goods. So if we're coming from where we're coming from, when we were more or less wholesale importing all our basic raw materials. Yes, we can come and assemble them and produce them here together, but they will not qualify, for export into that large market we are envisaging.
Okay, now let's talk a bit about the automobile industry. We watched the Proforce, company that's now making armored vehicles and all that. If we, as a nation, if we say, look, if you're selling any brand of automobile product in Nigeria, it should have either an assembly plant or a manufacturing factory, because in many Asian countries, in some all Asian countries, you don't bring in anything like Tukumbo. There's nothing like Tukumbo. What they do is you have to manufacture here. We buy from here. There should also be some kind of a credit facility to enable people access, have access to funds to buy those cars. Perhaps pay higher purchase and what have you. So can that work here? Because Nigeria is the highest. We use a greater number of automobile products in Africa.
And unfortunately, they are second-hand, and our jurisdiction is known all over the world as a second-hand vehicle jurisdiction, and it's unfortunate. In fact, the last I heard is that China is preparing, to start exporting from their own country into Nigeria, and when that happens, it's going to be grievous. But I find solace in the fact that there is already an automobile fund, to support local production of automobiles in Nigeria. And I think at the last count, banks, money deposit banks in Nigeria are also considering putting together loans, commercial loans for vehicle acquisition, new vehicle acquisition, along the line of the CBN directive to them on the loan deposit ratio. So I am feeling a new momentum, in the domestication of our economy, because that is very important. And you see the CBN being active, the money deposit banks are getting involved, and of course, we have a direction for this backward integration thing as initiated in the Economic Recovery Group plan as well.
All right, I'd like to thank you for your time and, of course, your insights into the backward integration program of the federal government. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks so much.
Neo Akinshiju is an economic analyst, so thank you once again. You're still watching Weekend File. Let's stakeholders to react to the Nigeria's D Tigers loss to Russia in the first match of the 2019 FIBA Men's World Cup holding in China. Olumide Eguntola has this and more on our sports update.
Nigeria's The Tigers started their campaign at the 2019 FIBA Basketball World Cup on a shaky note. Despite leading with about 8 points midway, in the fourth quarter, the Tigers lost its first match to their Russian counterparts, 77 to 82 points.
This is a good beginning for us. At least the boys will now make up their mind to play the next game well, knowing that they can actually beat anybody.
The game is very painful though, because I don't like the start of the game, because their sub is very whack.
In other results, Cote d'Ivoire lost to China 55 to 70 points, while Spain humbled Tunisia 101 to 62 points. As part of its preparation to ensure a successful hosting of the forthcoming 5th National Youth Games, between 7th and 17th of September, the management of the University of Ilorin has constructed 2 new standard squash courts, renovated the facilities, and added more adequate hostels facilities for athletes and officials.
The National Youth Games is an opportunity to get data for talent hunting. We are planning to ensure we bring this into the national games.
Issue of age cheats, we are going to improve on that, and then we are also going to intensify efforts in the area of doping tests to ensure that these athletes are always clean.
All is now set for the 4th edition of the Warriors Sports Championship, scheduled for the 1st of September 2019 at the Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium, Lagos. Isue Franklin from Cameroon will square up with defending champion Bonjour Baba of Togo.
That title will not go back to Togo. I will take it home.
For the first time, we're going to see a female bout too, between a Nigerian army also and a civilian.
10 fighters from about 10 countries dominated by Nigerians are expected to fight at the Mixed Martial Arts Sports Championship. With sports update, Olumide Gotola, NT News.
A federal government's delegation has condoled with the Director General of National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, over the death of his elder sister, Fatima Abubakar, in Katsina. Correspondent Awal Haliru reports.
The five-man delegation, led by the Chief of Staff to the President Abakari, also include former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe. Condoling the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai, the leader of the delegation described the demise of Fatima Abubakar as a colossal loss, not only to the family, but the state and the nation at large. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, said the delegation was in Katsina to commiserate with the family of the Director General on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari. He said the President prayed to Allah to grant the deceased an eternal rest and the family the fortitude to bear the loss. The spokesperson of the bereaved family, Yahya Abubakar, expressed gratitude to the federal government for the condolence. The delegation was also at the Government House, Katsina, where they sympathized with Governor Aminu Bello Masari. The deceased died at the age of 74, leaving behind children and many grandchildren. In Katsina, Awal Haliru, NTA News.
And now time to take a look at weather prospect for tomorrow.